Endowed with great potential, he was prepared for life in the world of adventure. However, a debuff occurred, the curse of the Demon King. After long oppression, the magic swordsman, freed from the curse, reveals his true abilities and fully masters his power. This world is not ready for this yet. Will the former prey be able to become the new hunter? Let's find out. The story began with Asuka, who possessed the greatest power, being raised by his father, a holy swordsman, and his mother, the wisest magician. However, due to a curse cast by the minions of the Demon King, he could not reveal his true potential and was forced to play the role of a supportive member teams. In one of the battles, the curse disappeared. The team once again met a demon on their way. Asuka said, "This is already 100. They prepared to attack. Gorman turned and saw Asuka behind him and shouted, "Is he standing there?" He told him to get out of here, Porter. Later, Gorman pointed his finger at him, shouted, "Asuka Sutherland." He decided to kick him out of the group. Asuka was very surprised by what was said. Barbara said, "Finally. He always criticizes her use of magic in battle, and he himself is no use." Katrina added, "Even though he is an ordinary porter, he is always unhappy with her healing magic." Barbara asked Dan, "Did he agree too?" He agreed and continued, "Asuka, he is annoying everyone here." Gorman said, "It was decided, unanimously, for him to pack his things and get out." Asuka yelled at them to stop. He told them that he can't do anything through no fault of his own. It's because of the curse. Gorman yelled that he was annoying, blaming everything on some curse. Katrina said that this is not even funny anymore. The others said, "No matter how many excuses he comes up with, he is still useless. That's for sure. How disgusting he is. It's always like this. No one even wants to listen to him. Besides, they really want him to disappear." Asuka accepted his fate and thanked them for the time they spent together, then headed towards the exit of the tavern. The others asked, "What was that? And what curse did he keep talking about anyway?" Barbara told them not to listen to him, this useless bastard. Gorman added, "What can he do? A damn porter who is looking for an excuse. They did all the quests on their own. This useless porter did nothing." Asuka raised his hand and said he even forgot to say that in the last fight the curse was finally lifted. Now he could fight. He thought that they would accept him, but nothing could be done. He left the tavern and reasoned, and then he was driven away. From now on, he will work alone. And he decided that he will defeat the Demon King. His father was the strongest swordsman. His name was Kaiser, and his mother was a great sage. Her name was Alice. They were smart and kind, ideal heroes who helped everyone. His parents were the true heroes of humanity. But even they did not have enough strength to defeat the Demon King. Because of the wounds they received, they had to retire. When his parents retired, monsters began to run rampant all over the world. One day, when he was still little, Asuka called them and said that he would defeat the Demon King. Like them, he would protect this world, and asked his parents to train him. By the age of 10, he had become a master swordsman and had also mastered magic. After that, he went through 8 years of intensive training, but when he was already ready to challenge the Demon King, in one of the battles, when he lost his guard a little, one of the Demon King's minions cursed him, pointed his finger at Asuka, said, "That's why he lost his guard. He will be cursed until 100 monsters are killed. Until then, he cannot use his skills and magic. Only his comrades can kill them. No matter how strong he is, he can't do anything alone." After saying this, the minion disappeared. After that, he tried all the possible dispelling magic, but nothing worked. He needed to lift the curse as soon as possible. He had only one thought in his head. He wanted to defeat the Demon King, so he couldn't let his plans be stopped like this. He had one way out, to try to fulfill the conditions of the curse. He went from one guild to another to find comrades, and finally, he met Gorman and his group. In the end, he managed to get a job as a porter, but he was grateful to them for taking the cursed one into their group. Then it dawned on him, he should first check if the curse was really lifted. Black Forest. He went into the forest and said, "And so?" He came up to a large stone and said, "It seems to be normal here. If it doesn't help, then they will start again. We must try." Fire. He put on his gloves, wanted to do the technique, when suddenly he heard a sound. Asuka asked, "What? A bird screaming?" Meanwhile, in the depths of the forest, a red S-rank Cyclops wanted to attack the cat maiden Nadia. She screamed, "Someone." Then Asuka appeared, stretched out his hand and shouted, "Thunderbolt." And from his hand, arrows rained down which flew at the Cyclops. Nadia covered herself from the arrows with her hands. He approached her and asked, "Is she okay? Is she injured?" He saw the lying Cyclops, was surprised. Red S-rank Cyclops? Where did he come from? She said that her ears can't hear, and thanked him. He was surprised. Is she from the Cat Clan? Her kind is rare in human settlements. Then she shouted to him, carefully. He turned and saw that the red Cyclops stood up, swung his huge paw at them. Asuka picked up Nadia in her arms, and they dodged the blow. Asuka said, in surprise, that the Cyclops could still move. He thought he had killed him. There had been a mistake. Then Nadia started pushing him back and screaming that he had to run. He said no, he was staying here. If he ran away, he would go to the city. Besides, he couldn't leave her here. Asuka ran, pulled out his sword, swung it, and struck the Cyclops with all his might. He fell dead to the ground. Asuka came back to her and said that everything was okay now. Nadia jumped up and down joyfully and shouted that he was cool. He asked her why she suddenly. She replied, in just one moment he cut down such a terrible monster. He was so cool. She thanked him for saving her and said her name was Nadia Rowe. He said, by the way, his name was Asuka Sutherland, and asked why she was here alone. She started telling him that she came to this forest with her group. Then this monster appeared. She was so scared that she could not do anything. The others in the group were swearing. Because of her they were in danger. She brings bad luck. They left her alone and started to walk away. She screamed that they should stop. No, it was just a misunderstanding. Then Nadia started crying and continued, she was useless and they no longer needed her. He looked at her and remembered how he was also sent away, told that they no longer needed a porter. Then he thought about it and offered. He had an offer. Would she mind joining a group with him? He held out her hand, and continued that he was going to defeat the Demon King. He doubted that it would be easy. She asked, is it possible? What if the scary monster appeared again? He answered, believe him. He did not believe that her people brought bad luck. It was just a coincidence. Besides, even if she really attracted dangerous monsters, he would defeat them all. Otherwise, he would never be able to defeat the Demon King, right? Nadia thanked him and said that she would go with him. They shook hands and she said that they would defeat the Demon King. Later they came to the city. She joyfully shouted. It was Kovbaranen. She was in such a big city for the first time. They walked through the city and Nadia asked, still, why was the last city in such ruins? Asuka? He said he didn't know. They went into the building and Asuka, turning to the worker at the counter, asked what this meant. Where was the mission to kill the Demon King? He had seen it here before. The girl behind the counter replied that she understood what he meant. He knew about the new ranking system, right? Adventurer ranks range from S to D, high, low. Depending on the rank, everyone gets different quests. In the case of groups, the rank is adjusted to the group leader. Even if the other companions are below S rank, they will still be able to take an S rank quest. Nadia leaned over the counter and menacingly remarked that this was strange. Asuka was able to defeat an S rank Cyclops. He can't be the lowest D rank. The girl showed them the card and said, but on the guild card he has a D rank, right? He saw the card and wondered why the guild card couldn't have been made by the administration themselves. So the card was made by someone else. Asuka held onto the counter with his hands and bowed his head and thought, Gorman. He was just discussing something with the administration at the time. I would never have thought that he would do something like this. Nadia said they didn't even believe he had defeated the Cyclops. Well, there was no point in giving up. He raised his hands and said he would just work hard and steadily. She shouted, right. He said, they were heading to the guild right away. Later they came to another city. Nadia told him to listen. Didn't he think this city was strange? They hadn't seen anyone for a long time. The streets seemed empty. Plus she felt like someone was following them. They were walking through empty streets. Nadia turned around and asked, Asuka? He said, maybe it's time to show up? If wants to say something, then let him come out and say it directly. Then a woman with a child came out from around the corner. Nadia asked in surprise, a woman? The woman leaned over in front of him and asked him to get the child out of this city. She apologized for making such a request unexpectedly and introduced herself as Camilla. He asked if it had anything to do with the fact that there were no people here. She agreed. It all started when a monster settled in a cave near the city. She threatened the town that she would attack if they did not pay her tribute. The adventurers and locals formed a party under the guild's leadership and set out to subdue the creature, but they were all turned to stone. Nadia was scared. Stone? Asuka asked, Camilla, is this monster really? It was Medusa, and she had a look that could turn anyone to stone. She turned her husband into stone, and then wanted to take her child. Camilla cried and continued, she doesn't care what happens to her, but her baby, she doesn't want to lose it. Nadia said it was terrible. The main character told her to tell her where this cave is. They will defeat Medusa. Nadia asked if he was sure. Will he accept the task without the guild's permission? He replied that the local guild was almost defunct. Besides, his goal is to defeat the Demon King. He became an adventurer to help those who were in trouble. He bent down in front of the child and took his hand. Later, they got into a cave, and he said that this was the place Camille had mentioned. Nadia hid behind the main character and said what a creepy place it was. He told her that if she clung to him like that, it would be hard for him to move. She continued to speak, but suddenly Medusa popped up. Nadia stumbled and fell on him with all her might, and they fell. She apologized, and he just asked her to be more careful. MC turned around and saw a stone lying nearby. He thought, what is it? The stone is oddly shaped. Nadia looked around and said, Asuka, aren't these all people turned to stone? She continued, horror, can they be returned to normal? He looked at these stones and said he wasn't sure. Petrification is a kind of curse to get back to normal. Then they heard a voice that said that someone had come to desecrate her territory again. They looked up and saw a big scary Medusa. Nadia screamed in fright. Is that her? The main character came close to Medusa and said that today she would stop torturing the poor people of this city. She twirled her snake hair and said that the woman still hadn't brought her a baby as a gift. Stupid people. No matter how much they try, they will not resist her gaze, and they will become part of her collection. The main character told Nadia to stand behind him. She covered her face and ears with her hands and hid behind his back. Nadia asked, "What is it?" They had curse-proof armor, a protective spell that protects you from curses. Then he shouted, "Medusa!" Her look at them won't work. Medusa said, "Well, if you can't turn them into stone, then..." She released her snakes on them. They began to retreat back, but she attacked again and screamed. He would not be able to block her attack. She's going to crush him. Nadia asked what to do. Asuka, she's going to smash everyone who's turned to stone. The main character told her not to worry, he would dissect her. At the same time, he ran, drawing his sword from its scabbard and began to stab at her snakes with all his might. Medusa was surprised. What? Where does the speed come from? Who is he anyway? She can't lose like that. He attacked again and again until he defeated Medusa. Then he put the sword on his shoulder and said that he forgot to introduce himself. His name is Asuka Sutherland, a swordsman magician. Nadia was delighted and shouted, "Well done, Asuka." Camille will be calm now, he agreed. But then Medusa began to open her eyes and said, "No, it's not over yet. At least she'll drag this girl to hell with her." The main character heard a strange sound and asked, "Nadia?" She replied, "Asuka, what should she do? Her body doesn't move." MC was surprised. She started turning into stone. Then suddenly the head of Medusa started talking. "The idiots, they relaxed. You can't reverse the effect. She'll just become a smelly statue." Nadia apologized to the protagonist, but he replied that everything was fine. He will solve everything with his magic. Then the head of Medusa added, "It's simply impossible. Only she can undo petrification." Well, maybe the sage would have been able to. He said it was true. He took her hands and continued that to remove the curse, one must have the knowledge of a sage and great magical power. If his mother hadn't taught him that, he wouldn't have been able to pull it off. He read a lot of magical tomes and hammered into his head all the knowledge that exists in this world. There were times when he thought he was going to die. But when he was cursed, he realized that if he remained weak, he would see people die before his eyes, so he would never let the curse take over. He activated the exorcism of curses by putting his hands on Nadia, after which all the stone areas disappeared. He asked if there were any strange sensations anywhere. She replied that she didn't, and Medusa's head couldn't believe this nonsense. Is there such a strong person? How did he do it? The protagonist said, "So it's time to return the rest of the people to normal." She thought, Asuka is amazing, strong, and can do so much. She can't leave it like this, she must also be useful to him. The protagonist shouted, "Nadia, can she help him?" She looked at the people he revived from the stones. Then she asked him for forgiveness. The protagonist asked, "What's wrong with her? Is she feeling bad?" They began to return to their homes. Relatives hugged them when they met. Then everyone gathered in the tavern and decided to celebrate this day. Guild manager Drinker said, "So what should we drink to Mr. Asuka, the savior of their cities?" MC said, "They are sure such a celebration was arranged." Drinker answered, "Of course we are sure he is the hero of this city. This city would not be like this now if they had not saved people." Nadia asked, "Can all this be eaten?" And she pounced on the food. The protagonist told her not to eat too much. She answered, "Okay." Then Camilla appeared and said, "Mr. Asuka, this is her husband Reginald," about the man who was standing next to her. He bowed down to the protagonist and thanked him for saving his wife and daughter. The protagonist was embarrassed, no need to thank him. Camilla added, "No, if he had not helped them, then everything would have been over for their family. They are the real heroes, saviors." The protagonist said embarrassedly, somehow awkwardly even. Nadia also praised him. The protagonist said that she was also great. She replied that she did nothing. All she did was hide behind his back. He answered, "No, she was there and gave him faith in him." He thanked Nadia for being with him. She cried. Reginald asked, by the way, why were they in the city at all? He answered, he needed the guild so that he could get information about the Demon King. Reginald asked in surprise, "The Demon King?" Drinker said, "In that case, maybe they can find out something in Lachita." The protagonist asked again, "Lachita?" The largest port city of the kingdom. A water channel runs right through the city, and it seems that in recent days, the water in the city has become cloudy for some reason. Rumor has it that this is the work of the Undines, and they should have already started to gather a squad there. MC asked, "Undine?" Nadia said, "Asuka, she must be somehow connected with the Demon King." He noticed, "That's right, we need to go there and check." She added, "Then it's decided." Camilla asked, "Are they leaving already?" He agreed. He was too interested in the problems in Lachita. Nadia added that the main thing was that they not get bored and that the child grows up healthy. They thanked them. Then they would hope that their journey would bear fruit. The people wished them luck. They were leaving the city, and Nadia said what good people they were all. He said, exactly. And he continued, this was the first time he heard words of gratitude. In his last group, all they did was insult him. She asked, why did they do this to him? He wondered, by the way, how are Gorman and the others doing? Are they coping? Considering that Gorman was S rank, he thought that they were doing well. Gorman swung his sword and screamed, nightmare. The rest of the guild lay on the ground. Gorman continued, fool, why can't he defeat him? He's just scum, not a monster, a damn stump. He attacked again and again, but it didn't work. Then he jumped up, swung his sword, and shouted, what is he laughing at? The stump caught the sword with its roots and broke it. Gorman looked at the broken sword and said in surprise, nonsense, he just bought it. Why to some weakling? The stump attacked Gorman. Then someone's voice shouted, move aside, adventurer. He jumped aside, saw her, and was surprised. Noel said that she almost cut his hair just now. He couldn't even defeat such a small thing. He's D rank? Gorman shouted, who does she take him for? He's an S rank adventurer, Gorman Elefante. She asked again, Gorman Elefante? He looked at her and said, if you look at her like that, she's a cutie, huh? That's right, he'll forgive her for being rude if she becomes his woman, and add for her to answer. Noel asked, where is Aska? Sometime later, Nadia told him to look there. They were looking down from the mountain, and she said it was Lachita. The people in the city were surprised that there was muddy water everywhere. It would be impossible to live here at this rate. What was going on? Meanwhile, the robbers saw a woman in the street and went after her. They wanted to attack her. She turned around and they asked, is she Undyne, right? Will she take a walk with them? The protagonist and Nadia approached the city, and she asked, is it a port city, right? He replied that he had only seen the city in pictures, but it is known for the fact that a water channel runs through the city. According to one theory, Undyne made a huge contribution to the development of the city. Nadia asked if they could get off in the city shopping. There's something she'd like to buy. He replied, after a little reconnaissance, they'd go right away. She said she understood well. He approached the monument, looked at it in surprise. Suddenly a man fell to his knees next to him. The protagonist asked him if he was okay. Who was he? The man answered that he should forgive, but he didn't have the strength to get up. He was in a bad state. What was going on in this city? The protagonist healed him with his skill and asked, is it better yet? He thanked him and said that he felt better now. The main character asked, by the way, he was in a deplorable state, what was happening in the city. He began to tell, the thing is, a canal runs through the city, which is simply necessary for the existence of the city. But some time ago, the water in the canal began to get cloudy. People living in the city began to get sick. It all starts with simple dizziness, but then people just fall and cannot move. The main character thought, so what Drinker told was true, and he said that he heard that this was the work of Undyne's, right? The man got angry and shouted, yes, it's all because of her. There is something wrong with the water source where the Undynes live, and when they wanted to know what was wrong, then they attacked them. In the past, they lived as neighbors, but now they were in cahoots with monsters. He took a stone from the ground and said that they are the only ones who can influence water. It is definitely them. And he threw the stone with all his might at Monument and screamed, creatures! What kind of water spirits are they? They are no different from monsters, and asked the adventurer to deal with them. The protagonist sat on the ground, looked at the muddy water and said, I see, this is not just muddy water. He feels an evil magical force. Is this the work of the Demon King, or... He reasoned, but the Undynes love clean water. It's hard to believe that they allowed their water to be defiled. In any case, now we need to find out where the Undynes live. By the way, Nadia is late. Did she go so far to shop? The store thanked Nadia for her purchase. She came out satisfied with the sword in her hands and said that she fell in love with the sword at first sight and bought it right away. It's quite difficult to fight the Undynes. She probably would like it to be useful in battle. What if she only gets in his way? She's not as strong as Aska after all. But if she can do at least something. Nadia was running down the street and bumped into Undyne. She apologized and ran on. Nadia looked at her and said how beautiful she was. Then she heard the robbers shouting, there she is! They were shouting for her to stop. Nadia got scared and hid behind a barrel, then looked out from there and said, are they chasing her? Then the protagonist saw her and shouted, Nadia! She said in fear, Asuka. He came up to her and said, there she is. He heard the shouts and came running here. Nadia whispered in fear, it doesn't matter. There's a girl there. She's in trouble. Undyne ran around the corner and found herself in a dead end. Then the robbers appeared and said, now she has nowhere to run. Smiles were shining on their faces, and one of them asked, so what now? Suddenly, the protagonist appeared from behind, called out to them and said, what are they doing? They turned around, were surprised and asked, who are they? Did they come for her head too? One of the bandits took out a knife, swung it and said that it was their prey. The protagonist shouted for her to stand behind him. Nadia stood up, hugged her sword. Right, how could she help? The protagonist began to attack the bandits. Nadia thought, right, there is another one. At this rate, Asuka will not have time to help her. She screamed, damn it, let him rely on her, and ran at the bandits, waving her sword. The protagonist was surprised. Nadia? The bandits laughed. That was surprising, that this cat's offspring? Maybe they should do something? Children should not get involved in showdowns. Then she started jumping very fast, waving her sword. The bandits flew in different directions and shouted they won't hit her with such slow attacks. MC watched what was happening and was surprised at how quickly everything happened. He couldn't even see. That's right, the physical abilities of her race are much higher than those of ordinary people. She always hid behind his back, and he didn't notice that she had such enormous strength. She put her sword to the bandits' throat and shouted that they shouldn't underestimate the speed of her people. Then the protagonist approached her and called her. She turned to him, and their eyes met. He said, she surprised him. He didn't know that she could be so fast. Smart girl. She smiled and answered, she can do something too. Then looked at the tied-up bandits and asked, what will they do with them? He answered, let them rest for now. They approached the Undyne, and Nadia asked, is she okay? No wounds? He added, can she get up? Undyne sat on the ground and apologized to them and lost consciousness. The protagonist said that she was very weak. Nadia suggested that maybe they should take her to the guild. They would ask her there. He replied, a good idea. They might not be her only pursuers. The guild would hide her. Nadia agreed. The protagonist put her on his back, and they went. Then Undyne woke up and asked where she was. Then she screamed in fear. What was going on? Nadia said, she woke up, Asuka. Undyne asked who they were. They introduced themselves to her and said that they saved her from her pursuers. Then she lost consciousness. Now they wanted to take her to the guild so that they could hide her. Undyne began to get off the protagonist's back and screamed that she couldn't go to the guild, so that they would let her go. The protagonist told her to forgive him. Nadia said she was in danger. Here she stood up and introduced herself. Her name is Till. Then they went to the village of the Undynes. Nadia looked into the distance and shouted, what beauty. She introduced herself. Her name is Till. Nadia asked again, Undyne. The protagonist remembered what they said in the city. What was happening in the city is the work of the Undynes. He told Till they are here to investigate the cause of the muddy water. If she knows anything, she should tell. She replied that she herself does not know much. The Lachita people and the Undynes lived in peace, but the water in the holy spring went bad, and now they hate each other. The protagonist asked, a holy spring? Till agreed. The holy spring is the source of water for this city, and the source of magical power for them. But one day, for some reason, evil magical power began to flow out of there. Their leader went on reconnaissance, but when he returned, he had changed very much. He ordered to completely stop relations with people, and the water in Lachita became more and more muddy. The situation was getting worse every day. Neither the chief nor the townspeople wanted to listen to her if things continued like this. The protagonist said, in that case, could she take him to the village of the Undynes? He couldn't leave people in trouble. She would let him help them, right? Nadia clenched her fists and happily said that she would help too. She couldn't do it alone, but the three of them would succeed. Undyne cried and thanked them. They went to the village. Then Till stopped at the fountain and said that they had arrived. This was the entrance to the village. Nadia asked, in the fountain? Till answered, right, the village is there, inside. It is unusual, as it seems, water and magical. The main character answered, I see, and added that they should go. This village is Undyne's. Nadia looked into the distance and shouted, what beauty. The protagonist said, amazing, there is such a place in the fountain. Nadia added, such a beautiful place. Till answered, yes, but because of the water, the plants are gradually dying. They walked through the forest, and the protagonist said that he felt that the evil magical force was getting closer. Till answered, yes, this oppressive feeling haunts her too. Most likely, comes from a holy spring, but only those who are approved by the headman can enter. She is very young and is not respected, but she does not like to just sit back. She wants to save everyone, both the village and the city. Till raised her hand and cast the water ball spell. Nadia called her. Then strong streams of water fell on them. The protagonist shouted, so that they would bend down. He stretched out his hand and tried to stop the flow of water with his magic power. Suddenly, a voice was heard from behind, calling her and asking if they wanted let people onto the sacred land. Then the headman of the Undynes, Hydra, appeared before them and continued. They could only go there if he allowed it. She must understand the importance of the holy spring. She was his daughter. Why was she so stupid? Nadia was surprised and said, so she was the headman's daughter? Till agreed. She went to her father and said she had found those who could help them. She was leading them to the holy spring so that they could find out the reason for the cloudiness of the water. They had to leave, out of the way. Hydra got angry and said, those who can help? How can she ask people for help? Stupid fool. Other Undines stood behind Hyken and said that they did not need their help. True, people are their enemies. They will kill them. Till stepped forward and shouted that she asked them to wait. They saved her in the city, and now they want to help them. What happened to all of them? They all changed so much that day. Hyken said, "What is wrong with her, Till?" She suddenly disappeared, and now she has brought enemies. Her actions are endangering their clan when they are already weak. If she wants to protect people, then she is no longer one of them. She was surprised by this, and Hyken, pointing at them with his hand, continued, "She and the people must be finished off." The Undines wanted to attack, but Till asked them to stop, and asked why they were like that. The protagonist said it didn't seem like they were going to listen to her. Nadia said, but they were Till's friends. They prepared to defend themselves, and the protagonist asked, "What should they do, Till?" She stood there and remembered her father's words, that she was no longer one of them. Then she asked them, do they trust her? They turned around, and Nadia said, "Of course, they are here to help her. Remember?" Till had tears running down her cheeks and thanked them. And she shouted, "Guys, she will lead them to the holy spring." She stretched out her hand and said, "They do not want to listen to her, which means she will break through by force." Then she called Asuka, Nadia, and asked for their help to open their eyes. They agreed. Hyken said he does not know what they are planning, but he does not care anyway. And he stretched out his hand and cast a spell. Suddenly, a water great dragon appeared in the sky. A fire great dragon. Hyken asked in surprise, "What?" The protagonist swung his sword and wanted to attack, but his great magic cannot be defeated. No way, he will not lose. Then the holy rain fell on them. The protagonist said that she had succeeded. She crossed her arms and read the spell and thought, Asuka and Nadia trusted her. She must not let them down. She needed to open their eyes. Then she raised her hand up and screamed that she asked for them to wake up. And she summoned holy rain. The raindrops fell on Hyken, and he woke up and asked, what did he do? Till ran to him and shouted, "Father!" He came back. How happy she was. He stroked her hair, apologized, and asked, did he want to kill her? Then he continued, it was as if he had woken up from a dream. He had never felt such hatred before. Where did these negative feelings come from? He thanked her for opening his eyes. Till replied, no need. She didn't do anything special. It was all thanks to them. And she pointed to Asuka and Nadia. Hyken came up and apologized to them. The protagonist said, Hyken, they came to solve the problem with the muddy water in Lachita. What is in this holy spring? Hyken took his cane in his hands and said that there is no time to chat. We must quickly stop this. The holy spring is polluted, and what is the reason for this? The protagonist asked who was behind this. Hyken answered, that day when he went to the holy spring, he saw something terrible. The monster that had 9 heads, it was a Hydra. The monster said, this is a great place to grow. So much magic, and they decided to take the source to themselves completely? Hyken replied, what nonsense. The holy spring has always belonged to the Undines. They are not going to give up this place. The monster asked, do they want to fight? Pathetic and stupid Undines. A stream of water fell on them. They covered themselves with their hands, and Hyken said, the holy spring. Then he turned to the monster and asked, where did this weakness come from? The monster replied, this water contains magical power, and so now they will cooperate with him, all for him. The old man said that he did not remember well what happened next. Most likely, after this, the monster controlled their minds with the help of water. The protagonist asked, then the reason for the muddy water in Lachita is the Hydra? Hyken agreed. The poison emanating from the creature's body pollutes the water. Even just being near such water is dangerous. If things are left like this, then the people, they need to stop this as soon as possible. The protagonist said that they will defeat the Hydra and not allow the monster to pollute the holy spring further. They are looking for trace of the Demon King. Given the evil power that comes from the Hydra, it could interact with it. Nadia said, if this continues, then all the locals and residents of Lachita will be in danger. They must do everything to save everyone, man. Till said, then she will go with them. The holy spring is a very important place for them. They will return the spring back to normal. Hyken said, good, they are counting on them. The heroes set off. Later, Nadia, pointing forward with her hand, said, this is a holy spring. The protagonist was surprised, it is so quiet here. Till agreed, the monster is not visible yet. Suddenly, a Hydra began to appear from the water and asked, who is here? Who dares to trample the earth that belongs to this? The protagonist said, finally it crawled out. The Hydra continued, why is a person here? Useless Undines. It hoped that at least some sense would come from them. It was worth getting rid of them immediately. Till ran to the attack and shouted, Hydra. Neither the headman, nor the other residents, nor this place. None of this belongs to the monster. The monster replied, it seems there are still those who want to resist. As their soul desires, it will play with them. The protagonist pushed her away and shouted, carefully, Till. He wanted to cut off the monster's heads, but he did not have time and thought, it is faster. The monster bowed one of its heads to him and said that he was next in line. The protagonist tried to hold back the flow of water with his magic. Then he turned and shouted, Nadia. She fell to the ground and the monster asked, will they finish, human? The protagonist said, damn, his magic didn't even scratch the Hydra? What is he even doing? If he had reacted even a little faster, he would have managed. At this rate, he won't be able to protect anyone. He must be even stronger and hit the monster's heads with all his might with his sword. They flew off, and MC asked, did it work? Did he cut off the heads? Then he felt a strong smell and covered his nose with his hand. The monster said that he was not bad, human. The protagonist asked, seriously? He saw how the heads grew back. The monster regenerated easily. The protagonist tried to cut off the heads over and over, to no avail. The monster said it was useless, it was invincible here. He's just delaying the inevitable, little man. The protagonist said, damn. The Hydra activated its poison breath, aiming it straight at MC. He blacked out, and then heard, Asuka, is he okay? He asked comrades. Nadia said, thank God, he's awake. Till apologized to him for leaving him to fight the monster alone. MC told her not to apologize. Are they okay? Till said they were okay. Thanks to Nadia, she protected her. Nadia said, okay, she only hit her head a little. The protagonist apologized to them. Because of him, they almost got hurt. If only he had reacted faster. Nadia said it was okay. He could see that she was okay. He said, but. She looked at him, their gazes met, and she continued. Till patched her up. She's fine. He shouldn't torture himself. He shouldn't fight alone. Besides, she screwed up too. But now she'll cover for him. Till said she'll be more careful this time too. They'll help him and defeat the Hydra together. He'd completely forgotten about it. He wasn't alone here. How wrong he was. The protagonist thanked them. Nadia asked, and yet, how can they defeat this Hydra? The protagonist said, Hydra, too fast monster, which also generates. Till added, it's because of the Holy Spring. Originally, the Holy Spring had a cleansing effect and helped restore, but due to pollution, the spring now has the opposite effect. Now, only the Hydra gets a positive effect from the spring and can become an invincible creature. Nadia shouted, what? That doesn't seem fair. The Hydra can only be defeated if they pull it out of the source? The protagonist said, no, there is another way. He called them and told them to help him. The monster said, finally silence. No one can move in this poison. It's a shame he can't see them writhing in pain. Then he turned and saw the heroes, asked, what? Are they still alive? All their efforts are pointless. The protagonist shouted, Nadia. She ran away and shouted, Hydra, will it keep up with her speed? The monster rushed after her and said, girl, it will eat her. She said to catch up with her first. Which head is slower? The monster rushed after her and could not catch up with her. The monsters' heads began to argue among themselves, and the protagonist said that now it is not possible to chop off one by one, they need to chop off all at once. He ran up to the monster, swung his arm and wanted to hit. The monster asked, did he forget? Till said, that's if the Holy Spring is the same as it is now, but she will return it to normal. The water is purified. The monster shouted, Undine, idiot. Nadia shouted, come on, Asuka. The protagonist shouted that the monster is finished and chopped off its heads. The Hydra hissed, pathetic human, this is impossible. Till and Nadia clapped their hands and Till said, it worked. Nadia added, this time the Hydra is definitely dead. The protagonist stood over the monster's heads and it said that the human won. The protagonist asked, the monster? He wanted to ask something. How did it find the village? Who sent the Hydra here? The monster replied, so they don't know anything. While they are chatting here, he is getting ready right now. Let them enjoy their carefree life while they can. The protagonist asked him, who is this? What is he getting ready for? The protagonist asked Hydra, who is it talking about? The Hydra answered, one of the 4 demon emperors, the vampire count. Nadia asked fearfully, a demon emperor? The monster added, they have great facial expressions. It's good that they are afraid. The highest ranking servants of the Demon King are those who report directly to the Demon King himself. There is no person in the world who has not heard of the 4 demon emperors. It would be nothing for him to destroy an entire city. They are all finished. Nadia said, if it is telling the truth, then everything is very bad. Till added, yes, this is not someone they can defeat. The protagonist answered, so what? He decided to follow in his parents' footsteps and defeat the Demon King. He is not going to lose to some demon emperor. She was happy and said, that's right, he is right. Next, one of the emperors will die at their hands. Till said that she is sure that they will never lose to him. The monster said that no matter what choice they made, blood would be spilled in the city. And soon they would know what horror was. They would remember these words. The protagonist thought about it. Nadia said that they had not received any information about the Demon King. The protagonist answered that they did receive information about one of the 4 demon emperors, which was probably related to the Demon King. He would question the monster if he had the chance. Till said that she was still worried. What if Lachita something is happening right now? He raised his hand to his chin and said that he needed to think. The best thing to do now would be to go back to town and tell them about the Hydra. Then Hyken said, Lord Asuka. They turned around and saw the headman and the other Undines. Hyken said, they were able to defeat the Hydra. The protagonist agreed and Till purified the holy spring with her magic. The water here was black, but thanks to her magic it is now clean. He said, I see, they really saved them. Lord Asuka, Lady Nadia, and of course Till. They saved their village, and they grateful to them from the bottom of our hearts. The protagonist said, it's not worth it, nothing special. They shook hands, and one of the Undines said, Till, does that mean she's their savior now? Till didn't agree, she didn't do anything. She turned towards the heroes and added, without them nothing would have happened, she couldn't have done anything alone. They are truly amazing people. Everyone was happy about defeating the monster. Later, they went to the Lachita Guild. They went in, and the protagonist put the Hydra's head on the table. The manager asked what it was. The protagonist answered, the head of the monster. It was the cause of the water pollution in the city. The manager said, but it was the work of the Undines. Hyken came up and disagreed. They lost their minds because of the polluted water. It was the Hydra that terrorized their people as well. Now they are fine, and for betraying their alliance with the people of Lachita, they sincerely apologize, and they are all very sorry. The protagonist added, in addition, one of the organizers of all this was the vampire count. They are going to attack the city, most likely on the next full moon. The manager was surprised and asked, what? Right on Lachita? MC said that they can still be wrong. Is there a bigger city nearby? The manager grabbed his head and said, there is one, Gowinia. Hyken said that the Royal Knightly Order is based there. The Royal Knightly Order is the real elite of the country's magicians and warriors. Even though their opponent will be one of the demon emperors, he thinks they can handle it. Hyken asked what Mr. Asuka thinks. He replied that he is haunted by everything that has been happening lately. What were they preparing for? Why did the Hydra sit in the Holy Spring for so long? And lately, S-rank monsters have been appearing everywhere. Is there some connection here? The manager said that it is true. There are reports of S-rank monsters from everywhere, and for some reason the Hydra has settled in the Holy Spring. There really may be a connection here. MC said that this is just his hypothesis. The S-rank monsters appeared in different places on the Count's orders, so he will distract adventurers from the high rank. If there are too many monsters, then the experienced adventurers will run out. No need to explain what will happen next. The manager fell to the floor in surprise and said, really? Asuka continued that while some of the knights went to fight the monsters, the city would be attacked, and then they would no longer be able to defend themselves from a coordinated attack. If the vampire count was targeting Gowinia, Lachita's soldiers were also exhausted by recent events and would not be able to help. He grabbed his head and said, trouble, what should we do? Hyken said, the manager, they, the Undines, can help. They've caused enough trouble, and to get their relationship with Lachita back, they're willing to help. The manager thanked him, and they shook hands. The protagonist left the room, and Nadia asked how everything went. He replied that the Undines and the city were able to make peace. She was happy and said, this is good news. Hyken congratulated him and said that they would never forget their kindness. The protagonist replied that they should not exaggerate. Suddenly Till said, if they don't mind, maybe they can take her with them. She will have to become the next headman. Lachita and the surrounding villages will have to face a lot of difficulties. Therefore, to become a worthy headwoman, she must become stronger. She wants to become like him, Asuka. Hyken said that he also wanted to ask them about this. Although his daughter has a strong character and a kind soul, it is too early for her to become a headwoman. This incident and meeting with them taught him a lot. It is too early to lock her in their village. Let her travel and see the big world, and learn a lot at the same time. In addition, she will gain self-confidence being around them, and he asked to take his daughter with him. Asuka said of course. They are only happy Till. Nadia said great, they will try together. Till of course thanked them for taking her, such a clumsy girl. Gowinia. The servant ran into the office and shouted, Mr. Hardhead. The Adventurers Guild of Lachita contacted. They say that they are on them attack on the next full moon. Hardhead turned and asked, what? Funny joke. Just think, someone would attack Gowinia, the homeland of the Royal Order. What are these demons thinking? In the impregnable Gowinia, which he, Hardhead, rules, no one will be able to penetrate their armor. The heroes approached the city. Nadia asked, is this Gowinia? Till said, the atmosphere is completely different, because the Royal Knightly Order is based here. Even the adventurers here are strong. The minimum rank of local adventurers is A. Nadia asked, will anyone really listen to them? Till answered that she shouldn't worry. They have a letter of recommendation from Lachita. The protagonist approached one of the servants and said, he apologizes. They would like to get to the headquarters of the Knightly Order. The servant asked, are they adventurers? What an interesting group he has. What is it like to live in a harem? Asuka continued that he would like to contact Noel Dalenbird. Is that possible? the servant said menacingly, with Captain Noel. Suddenly someone tapped him on the shoulder. He turned and saw Hardhead. He said, "These adventurers are not allowed through." "No, those who pulled the skin on themselves, adventurers. Monsters." The protagonist asked, "What do you mean?" Then the servants grabbed them. Nadia shouted, "What are they doing?" Till shouted for them to let go. Hardhead grabbed him. He continued, "They misunderstood. They had an important message." The protagonist wanted to take his hand, but he said not to touch him. "Dirty adventurer," and ordered the servants to take them to prison. The servants shouted, "Everyone forward," and pushed them. Nadia said that they were not monsters. The knights laughed. "Who knows? Monsters have always been good at pretending to be people, and now they just don't want to show themselves." Self-proclaimed adventurers, the heroes were thrown into prison and told to sit and not move. Nadia was indignant. What was wrong with them? Rude. Till said that she never thought they would be thrown into the dungeon. She asked what they were going to do. "At this rate, the vampire count would attack, right?" The protagonist answered, "Most likely." They had taken all their things and weapons, and as long as the church people weren't looking, they wouldn't be allowed out anywhere. Nadia said, "Damn, Asuka, but he's a human." Till asked her to speak more quietly. No one would listen to them now anyway, MC said, while they were sitting calmly. Nadia could not calm down and asked, "What if they are not released for the rest of their lives?" Asuka said, "There really is little time. He should meet Noel." A servant passed by them, saw Asuka and said that he was that gatekeeper, Asuka Sutherland. Meanwhile, the vampire count said, "Finally the full moon." He ordered them to wake up, his loyal soldiers. Their goal is Gowinia. He pointed his hand forward and shouted for them to fill their bellies, drink their blood, eat their meat. Later, Hardhead was sitting in the room, drinking wine, and asked the servant, "What happened to those adventurers?" The servant answered, "They are sitting quietly and not causing problems." Hardhead continued, "How else?" He put the glass on the table and said, "There's also this letter of recommendation from Lachita. These are low-ranking scum. Why are they needed at all? All adventurers are absolutely useless. Crazy paper." And he tore up the letter. Then he said thoughtfully that he did not like these adventurers. The servant asked what they would do if they were telling the truth. Hardhead replied that if it was true, they would easily cope with these monsters without outside help. The strongest shields and spears of their nation were based here. Who could they lose to? The servant replied that he was right, especially under his leadership. Then the door opened, and a vampire entered the office. Hardhead asked who this was. The servant didn't have time to finish speaking, and the vampire grabbed him by the shoulders and threw him to the floor. He shouted what he was doing. The vampire turned and headed towards Hardhead, and barked that he had to give him his blood. Hardhead approached the servant and told him to come to his senses. The vampire wanted to attack him, but he pushed him away. The monster crawled after him and said that it needed his blood. Hardhead shouted for the monster to did not come closer and ran to the exit. Slamming the door, he said in surprise, "What is going on? Where did the monsters even come from?" He turned around and saw the monsters attacking the servants. They were screaming for help. The monsters were moving forward. One of the servants blocked their way and screamed, "What are they doing?" Hardhead screamed for them to not come closer. Then one of the servants came up and asked, "Is he okay?" Hardhead grabbed him by the shoulders and said that he was not okay. "What is going on here? Why did the monsters get so close to them?" He set him to explain. The servant replied that they did not know, and besides, he had better see what was outside. Hardhead looked out the window and saw a crowd of monsters moving towards the castle. He said, "Even at first glance, you can see the abominations and red ogres. There is a whole horde of S-rank monsters. They appeared suddenly. Now all of Gowinia is surrounded." Hardhead slammed his fist on the windowsill and shouted, "No! If Gowinia falls, it will affect his reputation. What are the soldiers doing? Let them repel the attack." The servant replied, "Suddenly monsters appeared among their soldiers. Chaos reigns in their ranks." Hardhead grabbed him by the throat and shouted, "They are useless bastards." The servant shouted, "Master Hardhead." From behind, he turned around and saw that the monsters were reaching out their hands to him. The end. Gowinia has fallen. Windshield. The protagonist said, "It looks like he made it." Hardhead turned around and said, "Why is he here?" He grabbed his hand, pulled him to the window, and said he would explain later. It seemed like the war situation was definitely not the best. Asuka said, "Nadia, Till, he is leaving the castle with them." Till said, "Okay." Nadia told him to be careful. He jumped from the window and shouted that he was leaving. Nadia turned around and asked, "Was that what he called them, monsters, back then?" Till said, "Somehow." Nadia added that she did not want to defend him, but this time, they would forget the insult. Till said, it seemed like they had lost their minds, like the villagers, and asked Nadia to distract them. She said, "Okay." The monsters reached out to them and shouted for them to give them blood. Hardhead was very surprised and asked, "Who the hell are they?" "They are D-rank adventurers. They are strong and have magic. There must be some kind of mistake here." Hardhead wondered if he had made a mistake. The protagonist said that there were only strong monsters here, but there was a spell that could hold them back. Yeah, they only made it in time thanks to that man. Is he that same Askar? The protagonist was surprised and agreed. The servant said that he used to serve under Captain Noel. She always praised him. If he really was that same Aska, then he would trust him. Aska asked if he was sure, and if he couldn't prove it to his superiors. The servant said that if the vampire count really came, then no one would be against it. Mr. Hardhead was too arrogant. If a horde of monsters attacked them now, then they simply wouldn't have enough people. But if they on their side, they have a chance. Besides, he would like to see with his own eyes the confirmation of the captain's words. The protagonist went out onto the balcony and said he will show him the sacred protective circles, the highest spell that his mother taught him. Thanks to this, they will not get close to Gowinia. Suddenly, they heard a loud sound. Hardhead covered his ears and screamed. Who could it be? They broke through their defense? The servant looked out the window and told them to look. There are no more enemies. Hardhead said, "This can't be." The servant replied that he should see for himself. This adventurer killed them all in one fell swoop. The protagonist sat down on the balcony and said, "Great, it was possible to get rid of the monsters that surrounded the city, but this was the highest magic. He spent a lot of magical power, but now Gowinia should be able to handle it. And he's not bad." Suddenly, the Gord grabbed him by the shoulders and said, "Interesting. He'll be his main course." The protagonist tried to break free and said, "The Demon Emperor, the Vampire Count. He's one of the Demon King's confidants. To think that he showed up so quickly." Aska continued, "Count, it was he who sent the monsters to Gowinia. The Count said that he always liked watching people suffer. It was so fun to watch it, but he ruined everything for him." The protagonist said that both Lachita and the Hydra that settled in the holy spring of the Undines were all his doing. The Count, pleased with himself, said, "Exactly, it's all for his own amusement." Then he grabbed the protagonist's throat tighter and said, "And still someone appeared who was ruining his fun. He's an unusual adventurer. Who cares?" He raised his hand and a clot of power formed in his hand. He thought he would taste it and understand everything. He pressed his hand harder on the protagonist's throat and said, "So where should he start?" Suddenly, he heard a scream for him to take his dirty hands off him. The Count asked, "What?" He turned around and saw Noel swinging her sword and attacking him. She said, "Long time no see, Asuka." The protagonist held his throat and looked at her in surprise. She continued, "She finally found him." He asked, "Why was she here?" "She was on a mission." Noel answered, "When she heard about the attack on Gowinia, she decided to return. She suggested that they talk about everything later. Now, they need to defeat him, and prepared to attack again." Asuka agreed. "They couldn't let him go. They will defeat him together, Noel." She answered, "Of course, he can be sure." The Count looked at them, smiled and said, "The main course also has dessert. Great. Let them not complain when it hurts." He waved his hands and released a squad of monsters at them. The Count shouted, "Enjoy your meal." Noel rushed to attack and shouted for him to leave them to her. She pushed off the ground and flew to attack. The monster told her to feed it with her magic power. She asked, is he underestimating her? She attacked harder, and sparks and fire swirled around her. She shouted, "He is not even her match." The Count stood in the fire, spread his arms in different directions and said, "Good." She repelled one of his attacks. It seems that she is one of the royal knights. Besides, her rank is clearly not low. And also, is he sure that he can be distracted? The Count asked, "What?" Then the protagonist jumped up from behind and immediately struck. The Horned One held the sword with his hands and said that he could do more than just cast spells, then pushed him away and asked if he could keep up with his speed. He attacked with a flurry of quick strikes. The protagonist responded in kind. Then he swung his sword again, the blade flashed and MC hit the Count. He was indignant. What? He was able to scratch his face. Right? He is clearly not an easy adventurer. The protagonist thought it would be difficult to deal him a fatal blow with just a sword, but he has no magic, which means he cannot rely on it. He swung his sword and shouted, "Cross-cut." The Count's eyes were burning, and he screamed, "Very interesting," and added that he should entertain him some more. The protagonist said, "Amazing, he can't even squeeze in." Noelle watched the fight and remembered how worried she was when she heard he was kicked out of the group. But Asuka hadn't changed at all. No, he had gotten stronger. Noelle sat with her face in her hands. Asuka stood next to the dead monster and asked if she was okay. She asked if he had defeated him alone. He was amazing, she couldn't even scratch him. The protagonist replied, "No, he had room to grow. He wasn't strong enough yet, he couldn't defeat the Demon King. In order to protect everyone, he had to get stronger." Noelle said, "Why? He was already so strong." The protagonist thought about it. He wanted to become an adventurer who would protect everyone, just like his parents. And he said that's why he had to be stronger, which meant he had to try even harder. She replied, "Then she would try too. She would get stronger too, and help him, Asuka." He agreed and said that they would try together. He trained to defeat the Demon King, and she followed the path of the Royal Knight. When she met him, she learned that Asuka suffered from some kind of curse. Noel thought it turned out that it was not true. He did not lose his skills. She would say that with each second of the fight, he only became stronger. The protagonist attacked more and more and already wounded the Count many times. The Horned One said that he was only getting faster. In addition, there were more and more wounds on his body. This is bad. At this rate, he will finish him off. The protagonist, striking, thought that he could, just a little more. But the Count did not give up. He accumulated strength for the attack. Asuka thought, damn, he was wrong. The Horned One grinned that he relaxed, victory will be his. Suddenly Noel asked, did he forget about her? And she cast a spell, the holy shackles of paralysis. Then the Count was paralyzed, he could not move. The protagonist said Noel advanced magic. She said she would help him. He remembered how it was and thanked her. Then he swung and thrust the sword, quickly, without making any noise. The Count crouched and blood flowed. The protagonist stood in front of him and said, victory is his, Count. The Count asked, does he think this is enough? Then he pulled out a vial and drank the liquid from it. Noel asked, what is he doing? Then the demon began to grow bigger and stronger. The Count said, he is the Demon Emperor. The games are over. He said to count the last seconds of their lives. They dare not underestimate the power of the Demon Emperor. They prepared to attack. The protagonist looked at him and thought that he began to feel the aura of the Demon King from him. He remembered the bottle and thought, was it the liquid that awakened the magical power of the Demon King in him? He held the sword in front of him. Then the Horned One asked, are they afraid of him? Then he will start first. After that, he was behind the protagonist. He turned around. The Horned One prepared to attack. Noel held the sword, blocking his attack. He indignantly clicked his tongue. She was bothering him. Noel answered that he finally began to take them seriously. At that moment, the protagonist was behind him and noticed that he was not looking behind his back at all. After that, he swung and attacked him. MC said, what? Something changed. Asuka covered his face with his hands. Is this some kind of blood magic? The Count flew to the side. Then he got up and asked, well, how do they like his blood? Noel said, damn. The protagonist said, it was magic. Then the Count laughed and said, this is his true power. Impudent fools. There's a long night ahead. They will have a lot of fun with him. Noel said, it is hard to fight with blood magic. The wounds they inflicted have healed. What will they do, Asuka? He said, to defeat him, they need to use light magic and become faster than him. But for that, magical power is needed. For it to recover, it takes time. Noel said then she will buy time. She will take on him, and in the meantime, let him recover his magical power. The protagonist said that she should forgive him. She jumped up, rushed to attack, and told him to rely on her. The protagonist closed his eyes and thought that he needed to concentrate. He needed to recover his magical power as soon as possible. In the meantime, he needed to hold on, Noel. She swung her sword and rushed to attack, shouting that she was now his opponent, a pathetic demon. The Count replied that he liked fighting women. She struck with her sword, but he managed to dodge each time. The Horned One asked where she was aiming, and he flew up, spread his wings and began to shoot arrows. She held out her sword as a shield, but the arrows hit her. The protagonist shouted at her not to get in. Holding onto the sword and trying to get up, she told him to concentrate, then stood up and added that she was still the captain. She could protect him. She wished he would let her look cool, at least for now. The Count was preparing to attack and said that he was bored, so they could entertain him a little more. The protagonist looked up, tried to raise his hands, said, this is bad, he still doesn't have enough magic power. The Count swung and shouted, bloody rain. Noel raised her sword and shouted a spell, wind barrier, but then the sword began to crack. The protagonist shouted at her to stop. She replied that everything was fine, looked at her sword and asked the sword to withstand the attack. The Count looked down from above in surprise and said, but it's still holding on. The sword cracked and they fell to the ground exhausted. The protagonist said, damn, just a little more. The Count came down to them and said, it's time to start eating the main course. Too bad, human. And he wanted to attack the protagonist. Suddenly he got hit in the shoulder, turned around and saw Hardhead and the servants firing a cannon. Hardhead shouted, Gowinia will not fall today. He shouted for them to keep firing. The servants answered, there, and started shooting. Then he turned to the protagonist and shouted that he dare not die. The protagonist sat on the ground and said, Hardhead. Then he heard voices calling him and shouting that everyone was back to normal. He saw them and said, Nadia, Till, so that's how it is. Then the Count was surprised, turned around and flew back. Back to normal? But they are still weak, and they are no match for him. He will kill them all. Then the protagonist appeared behind him and shouted his remaining magic power. Noel lay on the floor and raising her head said, come on, Asuka. The Horned One turned to the protagonist, their eyes met, and he shouted, Count, is he ready? The protagonist swung his sword and thanked everyone, the people of Gowinia, Till Nadia, it was all thanks to them. He cast a spell, a slash of moonlight, and hit the demon emperor. Suddenly a crack was heard. The demon looked at his paws and said, "No nonsense." He, the demon emperor, lost to people and fell to the ground. Everyone clapped their hands, rejoiced and shouted, "It worked." They defeated the demon emperor. He was lying on the floor and said that he had the power of the demon king, but he lost to humans. The protagonist came up to him, stuck his sword in him and asked, "Where is the demon king now?" He muttered something, and the protagonist asked, "What?" He continued, "What a shame for the demon emperor." A flash lit up on his body, after which he was covered in flames. MC was scared and the count turned into an undead and flew up. Anyway, there is a replacement for him, who will be stronger than the protagonist. At this time, the tied-up hormone sitting in the dungeon was furious. "Ask a Sutherland. He will definitely kill him."